Hey, you're listening to aRDists, the podcast for creative people who do too much and refuse to niche the fuck down. I'm Sarah, an artist, dietitian, and chronic project starter. Let's catch up and have a little studio chat. Welcome back to the podcast. I apologize for taking a unexpected and unplanned break, but it has been insufferably hot in the garage and I didn't want to be out here. So anyway, I'm back, and honestly, it's going to be a little bit of a spicier episode today. And of course, naturally, I have to start off with, cat updates. We took Fidget and Dwight to their annual well visit, get them checked out and everything. And of course, the topic of, anxiety and tension and stress going on with the cats came up, and Tom urinating around the house, they checked in about that, and he was still doing it at the time. They gave us a tip sheet that of course suggests put an extra litter box in the house, have one per cat plus another one, which we've done, and it did nothing. We ended up getting medication, so Tom and Fidget are now both on Prozac, and it has helped immeasurably with Tom. So he's not peeing all around the house. I was saying to my friend the other day, I was like, it used to be that I would have to clean up basically at least a dozen different spots around the house because he would just pee all over the place and just mark. And then now that he's on Prozac and gabapentin, we did 2 medications for him. He barely does anything. He's not pacing around the house. He's not freaking out. If he saw a squirrel or a possum or, another cat in the yard, he would be pacing back and forth from window to window in the house. And so he's not doing that. I'm impressed, or I guess I was surprised at how much the stress of seeing him do all of that pacing was stressing me out. So I can feel my anxiety has decreased too, because I can trust him. I let him out in the garage. He's in somewhere around out here with me today, and I don't have to worry about him peeing all over the place. So that's nice. Fidget, on the other hand, she does not like getting given pills. Tom is great. I can brush his teeth. I can clip his nails. He'll purr during that. I can just open his little yap, stick the pill in, and he'll swallow it down. Fidget, on the other hand, she knows, she's smart, she's sly. She's like, I want nothing to do with you. I know you're coming up here to feed me, but the second day, she knew oh, you're coming up here to feed me and give me a pill down my throat. She seemed to increase anxiety with having to take pills, which is counterproductive to, taking the pills, but we're giving it a chance. So she's taken them. She's getting better at giving, or I'm getting better at giving them to her, and she's getting better at swallowing them, not freaking out as much. I've just got my strategy. I scruff her, open her mouth, stick it in her throat, and then make sure she swallows it, and then I let her go. Tom, I don't have to hold him down. He'll just sit there oh, okay, just give me a pill. I don't care. But yeah, she's not herself. She almost seems more spicy towards the boys. She'll hiss more, and she doesn't give out head bonks as much. She used to be very aggressive, like a goat, bonk constantly, but she's not doing that. And yeah, I don't know if the Prozac will be good for her long term, but I don't know. We're giving it a shot. I was also going to share with you about a friendly cat that was coming by and some baby possums, but on separate occasions. I think I'll wait for those. Also, I feel like my energy is really low, which is not ideal for filming, but this was my day to film, and I got my flu vaccine and I was due for my tetanus vaccine, so I'm losing steam quick. But before I get into the main story of today's episode, I wanted to also just mention, let me switch views. I don't know if that was a child or a cat. I don't know. Boop. So I've been, and if you're following me on Instagram, you already saw this, but I'm playing around with some kind of one-of-a-kind and small batch items that I want to include in my shop. So I was experimenting with some wood planks and making badge reels. So this was just a test one that I did. I wood burned an apple and just dietitian, and then I coated it with some beeswax, linseed oil mixture. I don't know how practical these will be. I know I've seen nurse badge reels with wood beads on them and stuff, but these are made from maple branches from my backyard. So I was like, I'll make use of this wood, turn it into something cool. And then I also used it to make some some beads, and I have a bunch of fabric. So I was experimenting with making some like nutrition. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little long for the camera view, but it says nutrition on one side, and then the other side it says dietitian. So I was just thinking like some sort of office decor. I don't know what style I would call this, like woodsy or like boho or whatever. I don't know. I'm not good at naming styles of things, but yeah, just some little macrame and crocheted chain. And I used a lime cut in half to do some stamping for the nutrition side, which I don't love the way the colors turned out, but I don't know. It was a first draft. So I'm playing around with that. I like the badge reel. I do want to make it like with a slightly smaller diameter. Hang on a second. Oh, hi. I didn't know you were right there. Oh, I don't want to step on you. Oh, the boy. Say hi. I had to jump up and unplug the freezer. It's Tommy, you stinky beast. You're a demon child. Okay. So, just bang my knee. That's fine. I would like to do rounded edges and a smaller diameter branch. It's just tough because doing writing smaller is challenging. I haven't done a lot of wood burning, so. But anyway, if you are interested in things like this. Oh, and I also made some wood thumbtacks. I couldn't think of the word. So yeah, if you're interested in these sorts of products, and like I said, I'm planning on doing more of the like small batch, one of a kind items rather than big batches, mass producing, because I just want to do them myself and satisfy that creative urge to make things. I'll put a link in my in the description to this episode, so that way you can get on my mailing list, my email list, so you know when things drop. If you're interested. Yeah, my goal is to kind of get those narrowed down, figured out, designed, and made by maybe like end of October, early November, in time for holiday shopping. So again, if you're interested, join my email list. I'll put it down below. So moving on to the main subject for today's episode. So you can tell by the title what I'm talking about. And this has been bouncing around the RD Facebook groups. I don't remember where I saw it originally. I'm in probably like 10 different RD groups at this point on Facebook. And I've just been a fly on the wall during most of this because I don't know her personally. The person I'm talking about today is Trina Pinkerton. She is allegedly been lying about being a registered dietitian, a registered nurse. It's very much so still unfolding. So I'm just going to catch you up from what I know if you're not already familiar with what's going on. Like I said, I'm in several Facebook groups for dietitians, and at the beginning of August, in one of the groups, I saw a post of someone, sharing about this woman, Trina Pinkerton, allegedly lying about being a registered dietitian. And, at the time I think, well, that's easy enough to check. You just look her up on CDR. CDR is the Commission on Dietetic Registration. All dietitians in the United States who are registered dietitians, you are given a CDR number, and so you can provide that to people so that way they can verify your credentials and that you are in fact who you say you are. So I look up her name. I see she's living in, Texas based on these posts, and nothing comes up. I see, I check a couple other states kind of just around that. I was like, well, maybe she's from somewhere else. And I see like other people are looking into it, and by the comments in the post, it's clear, some of the people know her personally. They know like where she's lived, timeline of her alleged schooling, her maiden name. A couple knew her since they were kids, so they know that like Trina is not short for something like Katrina. And then another RD reached out to the program that Trina allegedly had attended, because she also attended that program and was able to confirm that Trina never attended. So CDR was contacted directly by someone in the group. I think the main dietitian who's been kind of looking into this is Courtney Colbert. So shout out to her for doing her internet sleuthing and contacting, appropriate bodies to, look into this. Obviously, my curiosity was piqued, so I checked out her socials, her website. I see that there's a guy on there listed as registered dietitian, or I think it was either registered dietitian to be or soon to be dietitian. So that sent up red flags for me because that's not allowed in the United States. I find out from more just poking around their social media that he's actually her fiance as well. So I'm just chilling in the group. They're sharing screenshots of all different profiles and mentions of her claiming to be a registered dietitian. They're noticing gaps in timelines for her schooling and things not lining up. So bottom line is everyone in this group is certain she is not in fact a registered dietitian in the United States, nor is she a nurse, nor is she a certified diabetes educator, all of which she was claiming across multiple profiles. And when I say across multiple profiles, I don't just mean social media profiles that she was just saying she was so she could be an influencer or something. She had a business set up and was taking money from people with these credentials listed on her website as I am going to review your labs as, a registered nurse and registered dietitian. Obviously, I don't know her. Maybe that's not obvious, but I don't know her. I don't know her partner. I don't even know these other RDs or the people who, have been looking into all of this. I have no personal stakes in the situation other than I'm a dietitian and I don't, appreciate people faking hard-earned credentials and putting the public at risk. As an outside observer, I'm thinking if she was innocent and people, just had the wrong name, didn't search her correctly, maybe she was an RD in another country and thought she could just come to the United States and, say that she was a dietitian. Unfortunately, you can't do that. You still need to become a registered dietitian, licensed dietitian in the United States, even if you come from another country with that credential. Whatever the case may be, it would be a simple hey guys, I am a dietitian. Here's my CDR number. Like I said, maybe it's under a maiden name or, something like that. But instead of that, Trina, I assume it's Trina, has been just completely obliterating any trace of the credentials from her website, her social media, her online profiles. She changed her website URL and then even changed her NPI specialty. So the NPI is a national provider identifier. I have an NPI. You can change it and it's not a credential verification. It is just an identifier to kind of simplify billing and tracking, is a consistent provider identification for billing, claims processing, care coordination, and other electronic healthcare transactions, kind of making it a standard across the industry. So she changed her NPI number from registered dietitian to health and wellness coach. And to me, just again, outsider looking at this, person I don't know claiming to be a dietitian, I'm okay, benefit of the doubt, maybe they're just under something else. All of those things, erasing evidence that you were, claiming to be a dietitian, changing your NPI number, that is not, to me, behavior of someone that is, innocent of fraud. There's just a lot to unpack. And like I said, the situation is still actively kind of unfolding. This all started, I want to say early August 2025. So, as of recording about a month ago, a little over a month ago. If these allegations are true, there was potentially thousands of dollars paid to Trina under the assumption she was a healthcare provider. That could open her up to lawsuits, fines, and even jail time. Later in this episode, I'm just going to highlight and touch on just a couple other medical fraud cases. So we'll get to that towards the end. The alleged fraudulent credentials aside, I had mentioned people coming forward about this. Several of them know her personally and have been starting to, question other events in her past. I'm not going to go into those. I don't know her personally. There's just a lot of questioning, whether she's a pathological liar. I don't know. It's easy when these situations are unfolding to, get caught up in the emotions of it. And I definitely understand that there are red flags in her past that people are justified in at least questioning. So I'm not an investigator. It's not my job to go digging into her past. I just leave those other little shit sprinkles on an already shit Sunday for other people to, discuss. But another little side quest for this story is that her business partner, fiance, is studying to become an RD and is, I believe, in the final stretches of his program. before being able to take the exam. I'm not going to say his name or, share his photo on here because from what I can tell, he is going about getting his credentials the right way. And at this point in time, I don't want to contribute to any Google searches that might come up if a future employer searched his name. I will say though, my issue with him is his use of soon to be registered dietitian on their website, which has since been taken down. I did grab a screenshot before they deleted it. So for context, the CDR explicitly states on their website that these terms, they're all confusing to consumers because they have no meaning. He hasn't even finished his internship yet, his master's program, but he's already saying soon to be registered dietitian. I could be in my undergrad and say soon to be registered dietitian. It doesn't mean anything. You could finish your internship and never sit for the exam and still be, soon to be registered dietitian. You could sit for the exam over and over and over again for years and still not be a registered dietitian. So you're not a registered dietitian until you sit for and pass that exam. Consumers don't know that. So again, saying soon to be is just confusing. And bottom line is you can get in trouble with CDR for doing that. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt because maybe he didn't realize, but the ethics around this whole situation really give me the ick. As far as I can tell, he is standing beside her, which I understand. You want to believe your partner, especially having a child on the way. But I'm like, what kind of mental gymnastics do you have to be doing to justify the actions that have followed? Like, something sus. And red flags are flapping. To state in videos, I am a registered dietitian. To state on your website, I am a registered dietitian. To state on social media profiles, I am a registered dietitian. And then when someone questions that, deleting all proof that you said those things is weird. It's weird. So again, at this time, I'm not calling him out other than I don't like that he said soon to be registered dietitian. I don't like that. I'm glad he's going about getting his credentials the right way. I just don't understand the dynamic there and why they are doing what they are doing. It's a tough situation all around because clearly this couple is highly motivated to work with the public to improve health and fitness. They're expecting a child together. They started a business, but ethics are really important from a public safety point of view. You've got to go about treating people in a healthcare context in the right way. And cutting corners, presenting yourself as a licensed healthcare professional when you're not is only going to go poorly for you. You might be able to, skate by unnoticed for a while, but it will catch up to you and it's just not worth the risk or the fallout. So that's the bullshit going on in the RD world. I wanted to switch gears a little bit from Trina Pinkerton and share some kind of past stories involving medical fraud. So most recently in Florida, there was a 29-year-old woman posing as a licensed nurse, and she was arrested on 7 counts of practicing a healthcare profession without a license and 7 counts of fraudulent use of personal identification information. There's been dozens of cases, like you can just search medical fraud and you'll find them. It doesn't happen, as far as I know, as often, or it's not as publicly talked about because it's not as, how do you say it? I would say it's more common for like the mainstream media news outlets to pick up on like nurses and doctors, but it can happen in all sorts of professions. So most of the articles that I found were related to either people claiming to be nurses or claiming to be doctors. So like in July 2025, a 50-year-old woman, also in Florida, was arrested for performing illegal medical procedures from a makeshift backyard shed. And I saw pictures of it. It didn't look like some like janky ass, barn type of dirty shed. It looked like a, legit home medical office. So I wouldn't blame victims. They seemed to have set their shit up pretty legit looking. But at the same time, it's like somebody's backyard shed, red flag, a little bit of a red flag. In April of 2025, a 38-year-old man was arrested in Queens for posing as a surgeon and performing medical procedures in his home, including attempting to remove butt implants from a woman, during which she went into cardiac arrest. And at the time of the article, she was intubated with no brain activity. So obviously things like that where people are really negatively impacted by, medical procedures, those are obviously going to, hit the headlines. There's obviously risk with not being a licensed nurse or not being a registered dietitian and giving advice that is not appropriate for someone. For example, I think I saw in one of the Facebook groups somebody mentioning that a current client of Trina's was receiving injections from her. I don't know. I can't verify that at all. But it's like, if you're not actually a licensed nurse, what injection? Where did you get this shit? How? What? Anyway, so yeah, obviously with having some sort of surgical procedure by a fake doctor, that is going to trigger a lot more, headlines than, someone just giving poor nutrition advice and they lost money, but they didn't get like physically impacted, where it's more of a financial loss than a physical harm. There's still potential for physical harm with incorrect nutrition advice. I guess I'm trying to like explain why more cases of medical fraud in the case of like doctors and nurses as opposed to like dentists or dietitians or therapists, though there for sure have been. This one was interesting. In January 2025, a 75-year-old woman, Mary Blakely, and her husband were indicted for conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud, mail fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to violate the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. So the couple allegedly ran a full-body scan business where they would scan patients with an ultrasound machine and claim to diagnose, treat, and even cure diseases and medical conditions with those scans, such as killing cancer, cleaning the lungs and brainstem, and removing kidney stones. So, people out here selling snake oil. So ultimately, like I said, it's pretty clear with the cases of medical doctors and nurses performing procedures and administering injections, how that can be harmful. The same can be said for other healthcare professions like unlicensed dentists, therapists, optometrists, dietitians. The years of training and, credentialing bodies that are in place to ensure high quality, evidence-based care and oversight is not there for shits and giggles. You don't get to play act. You can't fake it till you make it. You need to have the training and the credentialing and continuing education. But unfortunately, people do slip through the cracks. If you are a consumer watching this, in the case of dietitians in the United States, you can verify our credentials by going through the CDR. You can ask us about our training. We're not going to be offended and are, honestly happy for an excuse to, flex our credentials. If someone refuses, that should be a red flag for sure. If you're feeling awkward about it, say like, oh, I heard about a case of a dietitian who was, phony, and I just want to do my due diligence to give myself peace of mind. Would you be willing to, tell me what your CDR number is? Write down their CDR number. I'll put the website link below. And if you are a licensed healthcare professional watching this and you want to drop a link to your specialty's, verification system, if you're a provider from another country, drop those links below so that way people can, watching this can verify. How can Trina and her partner kind of move forward from this? And like I said, obviously there's a lot still unfolding with it. Proper channels need to investigate the extent of what occurred. As far as, how Trina and her partner move forward, she allegedly committed medical fraud. She made a choice to list credentials with her whole fucking chest, and people rightfully questioned that. Actions have consequences. Laws and licensing and training, credentialing bodies are in place for a reason, to put safeguards in place to protect patients. Trina chose to circumvent those protocols and venture out on her own. Allegedly. Society is going to hold you accountable if you do shit like that. I think she should seek legal counsel, of course, and I also think she should, personally, I wouldn't find myself in this situation, but I think she should start making a plan to refund all of her past clients who hired her under the assumption that she was either an RD or an RN or, certified diabetes educator. I don't care if you have to take out a loan, get another job, preferably outside the medical field. Just start the ball rolling to make things right. I know that means like admitting fault, and a lawyer is going to tell you not to admit fault, but still, I don't know. Ethically, make a plan to at least give people their money back. And then as far as Trina's partner, I don't know how much he knew. I hope he finishes his dietetic internship, passes his exam, and this experience hasn't deterred him from still being a dietitian. But that being said, if he did know about this, I have some really serious concerns about his ethics throughout his career. I hope this is a turning point, that he can calibrate, take a hard pivot, corrective action, and, just align his ethics a little bit more, and maybe If that doesn't work, seek a different career. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. It was unfortunate sort of situation. Interesting, to see it unfold. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I hope more of her past clients come forward and, because if you don't hold people accountable, what's the fucking point? She did something wrong, in my opinion. It's very clear based on how she was presenting herself as a registered dietitian, multiple platforms, and then went and deleted it, and she can't be verified in CDR. Clearly, that seems pretty cut and dry to me. But again, I want to say allegedly. I say allegedly because unfortunately I could see someone claiming she wasn't in control of those profiles, or she wasn't in control of the website, or the videos were AI and she never actually had any control over the profiles or websites or videos saying I'm a registered dietitian, and that it's someone with some personal vendetta against her. And people with questionable ethics are going to find ways to get out of situations when they find themselves in trouble. I kind of wonder about the loopholes that are available based on the technology that is available these days. I didn't ever say I'm a registered dietitian. That's not my website. I didn't have any control over that. That's not my social media profile. I was hacked. That's not my voice in the video. Somebody, used AI and made myself say that, and now they have some personal vendetta and they just want to bring me down. So, I don't know. That doesn't line up with, money that changed hands, but that's just one little weaselly loophole that I could just imagine somebody trying to pull. But again, I'm saying allegedly because I can't personally verify that she was doing it. I don't know. Maybe that's a shit way of explaining it, but that's where I'm coming from. Let me know if I'm stupid. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. I'm curious if you've had any, personal experiences with medical fraud, or, if you're willing to share or have any other healthcare fraud scandals, healthcare scandals in general. Email them to me. Maybe I'll read them in a future episode. But in the meantime, stay out of trouble as best you can and go make some shit, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening to aRDists Podcast. If you like this episode, share it with a fellow creative goblin and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now go make some shit, and I'll see you next time.